All right, we have about 1 more minute before we get started. Hopefully you guys typed your first and last name in the chat box so I can take attendance at the end, and we will get started in just a couple of seconds here. All right, it is 2 o'clock, so I'm gonna go ahead and get started. I'm gonna share my screen with you guys. All right, hopefully you can see everything all right. If you can't see my PowerPoint or if you can't hear me at all, please let me know either verbally or in the chat box. I'll be watching and hearing for both. As we know, today is our last session of this little nutrition weekly Zoom meeting. So today we're going to be talking about food for your mood. So good food, good mood. We're going to dive a little bit into about how food can have an impact on your mental health, what certain foods may cause you to flare up in your mental health. And yeah, if you have any questions as we're going on, please just let me know. Alrighty. And if you are just joining the chat, please remember to type your name in the chat box so that I could take attendance at the end. And I'll repeat it again at the end. So for this first little intro slide, so from a young age, right, since we were little kids, we were taught that food directly impacts how you look, how you feel, basically how your life is going to be. Food impacts you. That's how you're going to be your best inside and out. What we're not always told is that good nutrition significantly benefits our mental health too, right? So not just our physical health, the way that we look, but it also can benefit your mental health depending on the foods that you're eating, when you're eating them, and so on. A healthy, well-balanced, well-rounded, whole food-based diet can help us think more clearly, avoid that kind of brain fog, that tiredness, help us feel more alert, and improve our concentration as well. Conversely, on the same end of the stick, an inadequate diet, kind of loaded with saturated fats, sodium, added sugars, and I'm not just talking about one time, I'm talking about consistently having those things, can lead to fatigue, again, that kind of brain fog, impaired decision making. It can really slow down your reaction time. So if you're into sports or even just playing around your kids, doing things around the house, cleaning up, it can really impair that reaction time that you have. So this is kind of why the term food is medicine is a thing, right? Now, I want to stress that anxiety and depression is a very real thing, right? Simply food cannot solve that in a lot of cases, right? But it can help a lot of the less severe cases to kind of be more beneficial. Let's see in the chat box, just check in. Awesome. All right, so in this little infographic, it's just talking about not all, but some of the healthy foods that can be beneficial for your mental health. And most of this we already know, right? Fruits and veggies, nuts and seeds, whole grains, and fish. Now, when we talk fish, especially that fatty fish, right? So things like salmon, it's loaded with vitamin D, omega-3 fatty acids for your brain health, can really help you kind of stay focused, full, and more concentrated throughout the day. All right, so starting with stress and depression, this is just a little infographic. Eating healthy reduces your risk of depression by 25 to 35%. Again, depression is a very real thing. Food cannot just cure all depression in the world, right? Otherwise, it'd be a much simpler answer than that. But it can help in comparison to diets that are high on added sugars, processed foods, high sodium, and saturated fats. So sugar and processed foods can lead to a lot of inflammation in the body and the brain. This may contribute to mood disorders, feeling that brain fog, tiredness, anxiety, and depression. So typically when people are stressed, when they got a lot going on throughout the day, their mind's just racing, 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 they either overeat or undereat, right? both of which are not good, both of which can lead to even more anxiety, even more depression, even more of that brain fog, that tiredness, that just starving, thinking about food all day, or that overly full, just sick and tired and sluggish, right? So we got to kind of find that happy medium of eating a mostly whole food diet. When I say whole food, I mean consisting of things that are like plants, right? I'm not talking about being vegan. That's not the only healthy lifestyle that there is. I'm saying fruits, veggies, nuts, seeds, fish, protein, carbs, fat. Just making sure that you're getting those from whole sources rather than those more processed foods on a regular basis, right? So let's see. Typically focusing on a healthy eating pattern. So like I was just talking about, that whole food eating pattern, not 24/7, right? That's not realistic, but consistently on a regular basis, shows that there is a 25 to 35% chance of reducing your risk for depression and that over stressing feeling. So things like dark leafy greens, nuts, seeds, legumes such as beans and lentils are really, really good brain foods, right? Awesome. All right, so moving on to anxiety. This little infographic on the left here is some of the foods that are shown to be major anxiety triggers in a lot of people. First being caffeine. So whether it's coffee or an energy drink or a soda, too much caffeine can really increase that anxiety in a lot of people, right? It's a stimulant, so it gets your heart racing. It makes you more alert, yes, but it also kind of triggers your body's fight or flight response. So when your brain's just racing, if you're having way too much caffeine throughout the day, it can really trigger that anxiety in a lot of people. These overactive symptoms typically occur when the average adult consumes 4 or more cups of coffee. So that is a significant amount, but a lot of people probably do that. And it's just something to take note of if you're noticing that your anxiety is peaking a lot throughout the week. Also things like sugar, alcohol, a high sodium diet, or processed food. So lots of those saturated fats can also be major anxiety triggers in a lot of people. Anxiety makes some people feel very unwell. It can cause them to be physically sick. It can cause them to be mentally sick. So just kind of taking note of these triggers in foods is going to be really beneficial. And I'm not saying that if you have anxiety, you need to completely avoid all of these foods. But it's just kind of making note, watching how much caffeine, how much sugar, how much alcohol you're having throughout the day or throughout the week. So it's just kind of maintaining that consistent, regularly healthy lifestyle. Also, in addition to limiting these foods, eating complex carbs that can increase the amount of serotonin in your brain. And when I say complex carbs, I'm talking quinoa, whole grain breads, whole grain cereals, things like that. Can really help increase the serotonin in your brain. So that's kind of the happy hormone, right? The hormone that helps calm you, makes you feel happier, in a better mood. Things that can also kind of help with this is drinking a ton of water. Even mild dehydration can affect your mood, right? So we just want to make sure that we're super hydrated throughout the day, not just drinking that caffeine and alcohol and soda and things like that, but really making note to take in a lot of water throughout the day. And like we said before, trying to limit your caffeine and alcohol. Eating these balanced, healthy meals is super important for your overall physical and mental health, right? So if you are limiting some of these foods on the left here, it's not only going to benefit your mental health, your ability to focus and maintain that sustained energy throughout the day, but it's also going to benefit your physical health as well. So you're getting in kind of 2-in-1 deal right there. All right, so the gut and the brain connection. So research proves that you really truly are what you eat, right? There's that saying that, you are what you eat. If you are consuming a ton of processed fast foods, that's typically going to be how you look, how you feel throughout the day. If you're eating a mostly consistently whole food diet consisting of fruits and veggies and nuts and seeds and protein, that's going to be, you are what you eat as well. So it's the kind of same end of the stick there. It's not one or the other. It's not just sticking to only healthy foods. It's not just sticking to processed foods. It's having that balance in your life that really truly makes you the happiest individual that you can be. There is a strong connection between our intestines and our brains. So our gut and our brain are physically linked together through the vagus nerve, and the two are able to kind of send messages to one another. So that means that the gut is kind of able to influence your emotional behavior. So what you're putting into your gut really does matter emotionally through your brain. So the brain uses an array of chemicals to kind of increase your mood, and those chemicals come from the foods that we're eating. And it's believed that about 95% of the body's supply of serotonin, which is that mood boosting, happy hormone that I was talking about, is produced by the gut, meaning what you're putting into your belly throughout the day. And stress is thought to suppress the beneficial gut bacteria. So these foods on the left infographic here are just some of those healthy gut foods that you want to try to incorporate throughout your diet on a regular basis. I'm not saying that you have to eat all of these things every single day. That's all you can eat, but just making note to kind of try and incorporate some of these foods maybe throughout the next 3 weeks and see how that gut-brain connection makes you feel. So again, lots of fruit and dark leafy greens, those nuts and seeds, that fatty fish like salmon, and also things like 100% dark chocolate or dark cocoa powder, probiotics like Greek yogurt or sauerkraut, things like olives, oats, all of that can really be beneficial for that gut to brain connection there. All right, we're going to talk about some mindful eating. So if you haven't heard already what mindful eating is, or if you're not kind of familiar with that concept, mindful eating is basically just paying super, super deep, close connection to your internal and external behaviors as you eat. So it's a present moment by moment kind of process, making your body aware of the feelings outside and inside as you're eating. So this little infographic on the left here is just kind of showing tips for mindful eating. I know a lot of people stick to the basics, chew super, super slowly, stay in that present mindset, take deep breaths as you eat, chewing slowly, putting down your fork after every single bite, asking yourself, how do I feel when I'm consuming this food? Making that mental note to say, am I full? Am I still hungry? How is this food making me feel? Am I getting kind of sluggish and tired, or is it giving me a good sustained energy? So this is not a, common thought process for a lot of people when you're eating. It's not common, especially in a busy workday, to set down your fork after every single bite, or to pay attention to slowly chew your food or take those deep belly breaths, right? But it is super important, especially when you're talking about this good food, good mood connection here, to just kind of try and be a little bit more mindful as you're eating. Sometimes stress and depression are severe, like I said. Anxiety and depression cannot be just solely cured by food in a lot of people. And again, if this is your case, you should absolutely seek professional counseling and talk to a doctor in that aspect. But if you do find that you overeat when you're stressed or depressed or have anxiety, this is going to be a really, really good tip. It's going to be a helpful tip to kind of stop what you're doing when the urge arises, that stressful urge arises, and maybe write down your feelings. By doing this, you might discover what's really, truly bothering you. I know for me personally, when I get super, super stressed, I tend to just shut down, right? I don't want to talk to anybody. I don't want to express my feelings verbally. So for me, writing them down, just keeping that to myself is really, really beneficial for expressing my emotions when I'm not actually wanting to verbally explain them to another human being, right? Awesome. All right, so brain food. This is a healthy eating pyramid. It was developed by the Harvard School of Public Health. So at the bottom of the triangle here, you're going to see kind of what's the most important in the healthy eating pyramid. As we go up, it kind of decreases in importance, right? So all of these are part of a healthy lifestyle. It's just the amount, right? So it's that balance aspect here. So at the very, very bottom, we have daily exercise and weight control. So when I say weight control, I don't mean in order to be healthy, you have to lose weight, right? It's just making those mindful choices throughout the day of portion sizes, what you're eating, making sure to get in those whole foods, right? So moving on up the pyramid, we have those fruits and veggies that we've been talking about, healthy fats and healthy oils, and whole grains. Moving on up, we have nuts, seeds, and beans, and that fatty fish. Moving on up to the second one from the top, we have dairy, meaning those vitamin D, calcium supplements there. And at the very, very top, those are going to be the least important. Not that you can't eat them, but just things that you kind of want to limit, right? So red meats, refined sugars, refined grains, saturated fats, super high sodium foods, that caffeine and alcohol that we were talking about as well. So just that kind of overall triangle is something that can help you kind of visualize the things that you maybe want to increase or decrease in your everyday lifestyle. So your brain and your nervous system, as we have discussed so far, really, really depend on nutrition in order to function properly and help you feel your best. Your body requires various types of foods, various types of carbs, proteins, and fats. You do need all three in order to function properly. And getting all these nutrients really helps improve that mental and physical functioning in your body. So down here, I just listed those three different macronutrients. So complex carbs, meaning those starchy carbs. So brown rice, quinoa, oats. Those are really going to help you give you that long sustained energy. It's going to take your body longer to digest those carbs, which is going to help you have that longer energy throughout the day. So lean proteins, things like salmon, chicken, fish, Greek yogurt, eggs, tofu, soy. Those are also going to really help keep you full, help maintain your cellular function, help give those muscles a little bit of juice throughout the day, right? Help you give that energy to your muscles. And then healthy fatty acids, things like salmon, nuts, and seeds are super, super crucial for that brain food, right? It's going to help you function properly in not only your brain, but also your nervous system. And again, other things like those fatty fish like salmon, certain types of meats, eggs, nuts, and seeds. All right, so healthy eating tips and tricks. This little infographic on the left, I find super, super beneficial, especially if you're just starting out on your own individual sort of healthy eating, whole food journey. So first, have a plan. Don't go to the grocery store hungry, right? That's one of my biggest tips that I tell my clients. I know me personally, if I go to the grocery store when I'm like ravenous or super hungry, I am going to buy anything I see in sight, right? I'm not going to pay attention if it's a whole food, if it's a fruit, a veggie, a whole grain. If I'm hungry, I'm just going to buy what looks good in the moment. So make sure that you have at least a little bit of a snack, some protein before you go into the grocery store, just so you have that clear mental focus. Another really good tip is shopping the perimeter of the grocery store. I'm sure a lot of you have heard this before, but shopping the perimeter typically means that you're buying those more whole foods. So fruits, veggies, lean protein, healthy fats. Once you get into those aisles, that's when you're getting into like the baking, the sugar, the cakes, the coffees, the alcohol, things like that. And not that you need to avoid those things, but just making sure that you're doing the perimeter first, getting in those whole foods, and then filling in the rest of your diet. Again, making sure that you're reading labels, looking for those bargains, whether it's buying organic or not buying organic. Buying frozen food versus fresh food can be really beneficial too. As we've talked about, you want to buy the rainbow. You don't just want to stick to all red food or all purple food or all green food. You really want to get that variety in order to get the most nutrients to your body. And also consider convenience, right? You don't need to buy all the fresh veggies in order to be healthy. As we discussed, fresh, canned, or frozen is still a veggie. And just making sure that you're getting those no salt added, no sugar added fruits and veggies can be super beneficial to you as well. And lastly, your little take action item for this last nutrition Zoom meeting is to take note on how you feel for the next 3 weeks by doing these steps here to the right. So trying to limit these foods for the next 3 weeks, these things that can cause a lot of mental discomfort, mental unfocused throughout the week, right? So caffeine, added sugars, alcohol, high sodium, processed foods, so red meats. And I'm not saying you can't eat that throughout the next 3 weeks, but just kind of being mindful of that, watching that throughout the week, and then also increasing these bottom foods. So those dark leafy greens, nuts and seeds, whole grains, making sure that you're hydrated with water every single day, and also adding in those healthy fats. All right. So this is a little infographic. You can just circle each day kind of how limiting these foods and increasing these foods makes you feel mentally and physically. All right. Does anybody have any questions? Want to make any comments before we end this last session here?